Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. Today's topic is on ethical leadership. In this topic, you should be able to define ethical leadership, examine requirements for ethical leadership, realize the benefits that come from effective ethical leadership, determine how leadership, power, and motivation relate to ethical decision making in organizations, learn about the different styles of conflict management, understand the importance of ethical crisis management, understand how employees can be empowered to take on responsibilities in ethical leadership, examine ethical leadership communication skills, examine leader-follower relationships, learn about leadership styles and how they influence ethical leadership, and use the radar model to determine how ethical leaders handle misconduct situations. So first of all, we'll be looking at how do you define ethical leadership? What do we mean by ethical leadership? Okay, so leadership is the ability or the authority to guide and direct others towards a goal. Okay, so a leader is someone that has the ability and has the authority to guide and direct usually his followers to achieve a certain objective. Okay, so leadership is that quality, the ability or the authority to guide and direct others towards an objective. um, and ethical decisions are one dimension of leadership. So a leader, among the responsibilities, among the dimensions of a leader is that they will make ethical decisions. And leadership is a very important an important factor within an organization that is able to create ethical culture. If you have an ethical leader, then the leader has a very strong influence on creating an ethical culture within an organization. The leader can have the power to motivate and enforce norms, policies, and viewpoints. Um, so leaders have the ability to influence corporate culture and ethical posture, not simply allowing employees to follow their own moral codes. Okay, so with a strong leader, employees will bound to follow the style, follow the practices of their leaders, and therefore they may even so if employees have their own moral codes, they leaders may influence or deflect employees from their own moral codes to follow what is shown or what is inculcated in the organizational culture. A leader assume responsibility to model ethical conduct for employees. Okay, so an organization may have their own um, ethical policies, and leaders should model what is expected from the organization, and so the leaders will become a role model for the employees to follow. A firm's board of directors is also an important leadership component. Okay. However, there is an issue with leadership is some leaders have this what is called as normative myopia. So leaders often overlook or stifle the importance of core values in their business decisions. Okay, when they make business decisions, uh, they close an eye on what they are supposed to do ethically. Um, Instead, they focus on more pragmatic actions to solve business problems that may or may not go against ethical values. Okay, so they don't base their decisions based on core values, but rather more pragmatically they solve their problems with whatever means they can, and which sometimes go against ethics. Okay, because some of these leaders believe that normative values do not apply to managerial decisions. They consider managerial decisions is only something like quantitative, or profitable versus non-profitable, cost effective versus non-cost effective. So more towards the business side, but they do not apply the ethical side in managerial decisions. And facts and values can be separated in decision making. Their assumption is that facts and values are separated. Okay, facts based on data, based on consumer purchase and so on. So based on facts, instead of looking at the core values, therefore when leaders make decision, they prioritize the facts, and do not take into account the normative values. And my point is also normative values are outside the realm of business. They consider that normative values is not part of a business. The result is there will be ethical blindness, or managers makes decision without looking at ethical issues, without looking at ethical implications. Ethical blindness is defined as the propensity to rationalize an unethical action or turn a blind eye. Okay, so ethical blindness is when they perform an unethical action but they rationalize, they give justification for their unethical action, or they just turn a blind eye. They ignore the fact that they are making an unethical action. So as a leader that is unethical will definitely influence the employees and the organization to do unethical actions. Okay. The second part is the requirements for ethical leadership. Okay, so we need to have an ethical leader. Okay, and what is required of an ethical leader? An ethical leader needs to have a good character. An ethical leader should be competent and have skills to guide others. So first of all, the ethical leader himself must have good values, must have good values, good character in him. And secondly, he must be competent in his field. He must be competent in the business area. And thirdly, he must have the skill to guide others, because there are some people who have very good character. However, they are not skillful, they are not competent in their area of work. Some people may have they are good at what they do, but they are not good. They are not good at guiding others. They're good at performing their work, but they don't have the ability to guide others. So an ethical leader should have all these three characteristics. They have a good character, they have competence in what they do, and they have the skill to guide others, to educate others. Ethical leadership skills developed through years of training, experience, and learning are the best practices of leadership. It's saying that these skills, these items, good character, competence, and skill to guide others, is something that can be developed. Okay, can be developed. It's not something that is already built in, so already embedded in a leader. These things can be developed. Ethical leaders must model organizational values. They should be the role model to show how to implement organizational values. Okay, if organizational has its values, and a leader will be the role model to show those values how they are implemented. Ethical leaders must place what is best for the organization over their own interests. Okay, an ethical leader always puts his organization as a priority, rather than his own personal interest. Ethical leaders must train and develop employees throughout their careers. Okay, like I said before, ethical leaders is not only competent, but he must be able to guide others in terms of training and developing the employees, so that employees will grow in terms of their skill, their ability to make decisions. Ethical leaders must establish reporting mechanisms. Okay, there must be some mechanism for reporting, and reporting can be two ways. Uh, reporting upwards or downwards. An employee reporting to his superior, but a superior may also report to his subordinate. Okay. Then ethical leaders must understand employee values and perceptions. Okay, not only ethical leaders should model the organizational values so that employees will follow, but ethical leaders must also understand the employees' values and perceptions, so that by understanding what the employees are thinking, the leaders will be able to address or cater to the needs, cater to the differences between the employees, and harmonize how the organization works. Ethical leaders must recognize the limits of organizational rules and values. Okay, ethical leaders must not operate in a silo in decision making. So an effective ethical leader is somebody that is able to get people to be on board in the decision making process and not making decision alone. Um, Ethical leaders must be passionate about the organization. Ethical leaders must have strong personal character. We mentioned that before. And ethical leaders must not wait for ethical problems to arise. Rather, ethical leaders should be very proactive to get themselves ready in place if there's any ethical problems that may arise, and not wait until such problems actually materialize, then they plan for an action. These are some of the habits of strong ethical leaders. Some of these may be a repetition of what we mentioned before. Okay, ethical habits include ethical leaders have strong personal character. Ethical leaders have a passion to do right. Okay, they always want to. They have a yearn. They have a love for doing things in the right way. Yeah. Ethical leaders are proactive. Ethical leaders consider all stakeholders' interests. So they are not only looking at only a few stakeholder, only the organization or himself, but he must look at more a wider range of stakeholders' interests. Ethical leaders are role models for the organizational values. Ethical leaders are transparent and actively involved in decision making. Okay. Ethical leaders take a holistic view of the firm's ethical culture.